Things that make one go, damn. Yes. So we will leave it with decoy voice. As we said, this guy is doing the do. And possibly the damn. Damn Cam. Session out.
Joe Biden finally went to Hawaii and appeared to immediately go to sleep. Now the Independence coverage zoomed out, but another feed shows he does indeed look asleep.
We are a community that relies on family, on ohana.
And after he snaps out of it, he looks like he's at meme levels of no idea what's going on.
Supplies, materials, manpower, ready to proceed swiftly for when families are ready. Set in place bureaucratic red tape, such as codes and permits, readily available to avoid.
So let's recap this disastrous response to the disaster. As nearly 2 weeks after the wildfires, he found time to visit Maui between vacations. As after blaming emissions for exasperating the flames, it appears they arrived in every single SUV available on the island. And residents booed him as they drove by.
Wow, he's finally here! Wow, yeah! Awesome, awesome! Yeah, thanks for nothing! Thanks for nothing! You!
And basically booed him throughout his entire visit. As Biden seemed constantly confused. And the sad part here is, it didn't alarm the Hawaiian senator escorting him away. As you recall, he was the same guy that shared images of the devastation, but couldn't help but smirk while talking about the money flowing in.
Senator, it's great to have you under awful circumstances.
Thanks, Chris, for doing this, and thank you for your kind words. And I just want to thank everybody across the country and across the world for the solidarity and the support and the money that is pouring in, because
Then Biden compared the loss of potentially 1,000 people in Maui to a small fire in his kitchen back in 2004.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was watching the press on a sunny Sunday. Lightning struck at home on a little lake outside our home, on Lake Pond. It hit the wire. Home. Make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat.
Before jetting off to his next vacay in Lake Tahoe.
Alright, we weren't going to do this, but we decided we will, and we'll do it in a little bit different way. We're going to directly address the person to whom we have this message for. Joe, what the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, there's a pretty low bar that you had to beat for president. We remember Bush Jr., okay? The guy that was 5 IQ points above being legally retarded. And somehow, Joe, you are as offensive as that guy. Okay? What do we mean? Fuck. We just had the worst national disaster our country has had since Hurricane Katrina. Maui was on fire. Over 1,000 people may have fucking died. And this guy responds to a reporter's first inquisition by saying no comment? No comment. All right. Well, that's one. Then, a week later, he decides that he has a comment and he will free up $700 payments for every household that has been displaced by the fire. $700 per household to make sure you can get your immediate needs and necessities. Okay, so have you been to Hawaii, Joe? Well, actually, that's a dumb question. Of course you have. You came and visited 2 weeks after the fires happened, but have you actually been here like, oh, well, you probably vacationed here, so you know. We're the most expensive state in the U.S., so your $700 is like $400 in the rest of the states. You can get maybe a hotel room here. If you have your Hawaii ID, you might be able to get it for less than $400 for a night. So what, Joe? You gave everybody a couple nights in a hotel? Congratulations, man. And then you have the audacity, okay? Like we said, we weren't going to do this. We were just making little reports here and there, trying to inform people about the disaster that is the Maui wildfires. However, when we heard you give your speech to the people of Maui and compared their loss to a kitchen fire you experienced in 2004, are you that out of touch? It seems like every chance you get to relate to the American people, you have to include some sort of antiquated story about your life, whether or not it's even true. Living across the road from the fire department in Delaware, it's like, okay, even if that's true, is that really where you heard the expression or the analogy that you're trying to, provide? No, it's not. It's from Corn Pop, or from when them little kids were rubbing the hairs on your leg in the swimming pool. Look, whatever it is, Joe, okay, there were kids that were on their way from school, that were heading home or after school, whatever it is, by themselves. There were kids when this fire happened that are unaccounted for. You realize that means they probably fucking got burnt alive without their parents. And you want to fucking talk about almost losing your Corvette? Get the fuck out of here, man. So goddamn sick of these out-of-touch politicians. And you know what I'm even more sick of? I'm even more sick of all of us who continue to vote for them. When are we going to learn our lesson, okay? I mean, how much more of a stark contrast do we need between red and blue policy? Look at California, all right? Look at Florida. Look at Ron DeSantis. Look at Gavin Newsom. We're talking yin yang. And then we have our fearless leader, Kamala. Maybe she's eagerly waiting the day that old Sleeping Joe decides to finally either not wake up from his nap, or maybe somebody in his family finally grows a conscience and puts an end to the elder abuse that the entire nation has been watching. In fact, the entire world has been watching. And we'll end it with this. How come nobody, and we mean nobody, we listen to a lot of different outlets, okay? Far left, far right, middle, mainstream, main vein, metaverse, cybersphere, we do get around. Not a single outlet is pushing this. It's not even a theory. This is what happened, okay? We had a pandemic, an outbreak. We had a unprecedented response to this pandemic. And it was all during Donald Trump's presidency. If you were to look at the stats for American infrastructure, agriculture, economics, unemployment, if you look at the stats down the board, America was essentially greater than when even Obama was in there. And how is it no one is talking about the fact that the crazy, dangerous orange man that was in the president was actually commanding a successful country, standing up to our adversaries overseas like China, pulling out of deals that were on face value great for the planet, but terrible for the United States of America. And nobody is talking about the fact that suddenly this pandemic caused everything to shut down. Trump's America was shut down. Maybe it's because it's too fringe. Maybe it's too out there to think that the powers that be would intentionally introduce COVID-19 so as to deconstruct a presidential platform that was, for all intents and purposes, actually prevailing. We'll leave it with that. We absolutely do not like the man, Donald Trump. We voted for him. Though if you are a Trumper, as our dad calls him, if you were a Trumper, don't get too excited. Because we also worked on Bernie Sanders' platform in 2020, having witnessed the burning down of the DNC in 2016, and ultimately watching the reshaping of a landscape. We believed at that time that Mr. Bernie Sanders was the people's champion, was going to usher in a fairer, more just playing field. Little did we know that the man's initials may have been indicative of something. Yes, Bernie Sanders ended up endorsing Mr. Biden at the end of what was another exuberant round of cheating by the Democratic National Committee. And Bernie really let us down. Whether or not he sold out by endorsing Joe Biden is debatable, but what he did do is show all of his supporters that this movement was only to change the discussion, and change the discussion it did. We now have candidates such as RFK, such as Vivek Ramaswamy. We have candidates such as Larry Elder and Marianne Williamson. We have candidates like this because somebody who wasn't a career politician got in and shook things up to the point that people were actually becoming informed. Now, we will openly state that a vote for Donald Trump in 2024 is a vote for Joe Biden, or a vote for Kamala Harris, maybe even a vote for Gavin Newsom in 2028. And why is this? Because the Democratic Party is essentially Trump's #1 contributor, not financially, but if you look at everything they've done to disavow Trump of his status, his presidential top dog status, all they've done is over and over again brought more and more people to the Trump train by continuing to allege trumped up charges, by continuing to indict this former president, by sounding the alarm bells from day one, crying wolf so much that by the time Trump actually did something that was worth sounding the alarm, everybody had on earmuffs because the damn thing was so loud, it was all we could hear for 4 years. Whatever you think of the Orange Man, know this. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are essentially the primary reasons why we are where we are right now, politically having to do with the landscape, at the very least. We have all but endorsed candidate Ron DeSantis. And we say we've all but endorsed him because although DeSantis has some very, very sound philosophical ideas, there are a couple discrepancies that have came forward over the last few months that have caused concern with many independent leaning thinkers like ourselves. And not the least of which has been DeSantis's announcement of outlawing abortion after 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Wrong to allow abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. I know a lady in Florida named Penny. She survived multiple abortion attempts. She was left discarded in a pan. Fortunately, her grandmother saved her and brought her to a different hospital. We're better than what the Democrats are selling. We are not going to allow abortion all the way up till birth, and we will hold them accountable for their extremism.
But just to be clear, Governor, would you sign a 6-week ban federally?
I'm going to stand on the side of life. Look, I understand Wisconsin is going to do it different than Texas. I understand Iowa and New Hampshire are going to do different. But I will support the cause of life as governor and as president.
Anybody with a uterus will tell you they've heard of people also with a uterus that didn't know they were pregnant for over 6 weeks. Now, yes, these are rare circumstances, but not as rare as you think. Not as rare as the lady who has a baby fall into the toilet while she's going number 2 at work, unbeknownst to her that she was pregnant for 9 months. That is a rarity. What's not a rarity is the fact that a woman misses her period once or twice and doesn't actually test until her next missed period. Therefore, she's 2 months pregnant by the time she actually pops dirty positive for a pregnancy test. Now, this essentially is way to a conservative, Republican, red. This is way too a red value for us. We are pro-choice. We believe that a woman should choose whether or not that life inside of her is viable for herself and for that life. Now, that being said, she should not have the ability to make that decision all the way up until time of birth. Absolutely not. There needs to be restrictions on a woman's right to terminate a human life. We would think this would be a common overlapping value of independent thinkers. Yes, we are pro-choice. Yes, we are for free speech. We will defend your right to say whatever you want, even if you shouldn't, if we think that you shouldn't. Okay? Just as we will defend your right to make a choice regarding your body, even if we think that by doing so, you are killing a human being. You know? Capital punishment's legal. We kill human beings who've killed other people. You see, the argument needs to be made amongst us. We need to focus more on the damn and less on the cam. Join us. ThatDaamnTalkSpot.locals.com. Created by Dave Rubin and intended to give dialectics to a overwhelmingly divulged and divided populace. What we mean is providing folks the opportunity to engage in open, unregulated discourse is the way we will determine the truth. And if you are like us and you want to focus on the damn and the talk, and you can put up with a little bit of cam, well then, Damn Talk is for you. You can either join this Damn Talk by bringing up your experience with both the Democratic Party, Republican Party throughout your lifetime, your own political ideals, your views on the Orange Man, Sleeping Joe, the upcoming election, the socio-economical landscape, or you can join us at locals.com and that damn talk spot.locals.com community, where you can create your own damn talk and get everyone else to talking about what concerns you. Yes, we have hate speech and we have community standards. The difference is we don't believe you can have hate speech unless you've discussed and determined what defines said hate speech, which is something all too often these mainstream platforms do away with. And we've seen people get booted from entire countries, essentially deported from whole countries. We're talking about kicked out of platforms, rather than suspended from certain channels. And we believe this is in direct opposition to Amendment Numero Uno. Speaking of Numero Uno, you guys seen what's going on down at the border lately? Interestingly enough, there is a factoid going around now by the likes of Tucker Carlson. 18 million people have immigrated illegally into the United States. Now, the Democratic Party is working on policies that will legalize all 18 million. And when we say legalize, what comes along with that, besides the free cell phones they're handing out down there, is the right to vote. Now, we're not a mental giant in the form of mathematics or anything, but let's take a second here to think 80% of new voters overwhelmingly vote Democratic. That's a statistic, okay? If 18 million new voters voted in this next election, what is 80% of 18 million? We'll tell you. The answer is enough to ensure victory for the Democrats for years to come. This would unequivocally alter the democratic process in a way that even our founding fathers would balk at. Now, we want to believe they actually saw this potentiality on the horizon and took steps to limit the abuse of power that could take place in the future that we are seeing right now as we attack a border wall solely based on the president that was building it, when miles and miles of that border wall were actually constructed before Trump even announced his running for president. Okay, we attack these camps housing illegal immigrants when Trump is president, when these camps were actually built under the Obama administration. We feel there is a lot of misinformation, disinformation, uninformed, misinformed, ill-informed, maybe even malevolent forces that are working to confuse us, the American populace. In response to that, we are asking you to join us in our project. We are taking over what Nurmak Black created back in 2015. We've picked up the baton from where he once left it, and we are running with that bitch. We want to hear from you. DaamnTalk@gmail.com. Become a member at the locals community. Get at us, maybe even appear on a future episode of the Don't Just Obey podcast, filmed right here on the Isle of Big. Don't worry though, you can feature virtually. You don't have to come to paradise to feature in a pair of dams. That's right, break the paradigm. And as always, Damn Cam saying, try giving a damn.
Many states, most of the states have so much water, it comes out of heaven, right? The water pours down and you have it. It's there. It's got to go wherever it goes, into the oceans, whatever. It's not like a big problem. Now, in some states, they have a problem. You have some desert areas and all, and for that, it's okay. But they have sinks where no water comes out. You turn it on, no water comes out. No water comes out of the shower. No water is allowed to go into the washing machine for your dishes or for your clothing or what. And I avoided all of that.
Wait, they have sinks where no water comes out?
Sure, you have restrictors. When I say no water, very little water. You want to wash your hands, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen this. And you turn on the sink and it's very little.
This is Dame Cam coming to you from some places. Yeah, we're on the IOB. That is Hawaii. Surrounded by water. We watched the Republican debates simultaneously along with Trump's Tucker Carlson interview. Fortunately, we were able to do this. We'll drop the link from the channel that posted this broadcast on YouTube, actually. And we watched almost the full thing here. We had to stop when we realized Trump, too, was talking about a water crisis. And we don't use this because it's not real. It is. Water will be the future gold. And Coming from an island surrounded by it, we can attest to the fact that it should not be this way, especially in the greatest country on earth. Yes, admittedly, we are in a solar powered house that we actually blew up the inverter to yesterday. So we're exempt from the victimhood that comes along with this crisis. However, we did that to illustrate the point and the fact that not a single candidate, Trump included, brought up the Maui wildfires, following in the footsteps of Joe Biden, the Democratic president right now, with no comment. And as a matter of fact, that's not true. Vivek Ramaswamy brought up the Maui wildfires, and in his response to something, you have to watch the interview, but Vivek basically dominated, and that's for two reasons. One, he actually interrupted people a lot and inserted himself into other people's time allotment for answers. But the other reason is that he had very articulate answers that were pretty short, to the point, and relatable. This was very beneficial to him. DeSantis came out probably in the top three for being strong. However, we will say our biggest critique on DeSantis, and being a former avid DeSantis supporter, he dodged questions way too often, and something like 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 of his answers were very prepared. He had a couple that were very, very relatable, genuine, authentic. They came across as being real. And he had a few that were just very scripted, it seemed like, and that's really a shame. But we will say a couple of the biggest things that came from DeSantis's part of the debate was his stance on 6-week abortion. He would not answer whether or not he would implement that in a federal stance, like he has at a state level in Florida, where he has implemented a 6-week ban on abortion. We can't really get behind that. We've covered that in other videos, and we'll keep it short here. Just head over to DaamnTalk, not on YouTube, where you're probably watching this, but at locals.com. Locals.com is more of a free platform. People call it the non-woke Patreon. It is a hub for communities that can govern themselves, somewhat like the United States that we live in. And the point of the United States as a republic, because we are not a democracy, we are a republic, we are a democratic republic. And the point of that distinction lies in the differential between the two. Democracy meaning one person, one vote, essentially, and republic meaning very little top-down authority, but different colonies under one umbrella. That is what we have seen now with the abolishment of Roe v. Wade, something that was not a constitutional right to begin with, though it was a very heated discussion back in the day, prior to our arrival on this earthly plane. And we said we'd keep this short, so we'll see you over at thatdamntalkspot.locals.com, where you'll find it is probably more organized than our beard appears to be. But what the damn? All right, session out.
I think he looks terrible on the beach. He looks terrible on the beach.
Skinny legs.
Well, he can't walk through the sand. Sand is not that easy to walk through, but when he walks through it, he can't walk through the sand. And there's somebody in there that thinks he looks fabulous.
Can I do the front instead?
No, we can do that.
Things that make one go, damn.